More options in Noah Baumbach's The Meyerowitz Stories, now streaming on Netflix for the 27,000 people who care. A failed musician played by Adam Sandler tries to come to terms with the legacy of his father, a semi-failed blowhard sculptor played by Dustin Hoffman. It's hard to write Hoffman's name seriously after the recent news about his on-set proclivities, but he's in the movie so we have to let it slide this once. Meanwhile, Sandler's daughter Grace Van Patten heads off to Bard College to make films. She ends up producing Kathy Acker-style art porn. Her entire family sits around and watches the movies, seemingly undisturbed by the fact that their beloved daughter-granddaughter is being fucked against a tree while wearing a rabbit mask. "I've never seen a sex scene lit quite that way before," Sandler says. "Welcome to Baumbach's world, where nothing gets valued more than the artistic process. Being creative is the only thing that truly matters. All other themes take a major backseat." Meyerowitz, despite all the family melodrama, is mostly a movie about art, as the characters try to come to terms with the fact that Grandpa's sculptures are never going to be as popular as the paintings of his pal Judd Hirsch. Sandler bemoans the music that he could have made. Everyone struggles, not just to make something of themselves, but to actually make something. The light tragedy of frustrated coastal creativity reverberates throughout all of Baumbach's movies. In Greenberg, Ben Stiller's character is a carpenter in Brooklyn who regrets blowing a chance at having been a rock star in L.A., while Greta Gerwig's character Florence sings mournful country ballads at an open mic night in Silver Lake. Frances Ha. Peak Gerwiggery traces Gerwig's journey through New York bohemia. She's looking for love, sort of, but really, she's looking to find her creative self through avant-garde choreography. Jeff Daniels in The Squid and the Whale is a mid-level poet. In While We're Young, Stiller plays a less talented Gen X documentary filmmaker who finds himself up against a slightly more talented millennial filmmaker, inevitably played by Adam Driver. Photo Everett Collection. These are all characters who, against massive societal indifference and facing about a 98% chance of complete failure, create stuff anyway. Having spent my entire adult life chipping away at the fiction midlist, married to a woman who struggles to get herself into regional group art gallery painting shows, I can relate entirely. Often, I find myself saying to my wife, "Did you really paint that 20 years ago?" I look at the yellowing jacket of an out-of print book that seemed like a good idea at the time, and realize that no one cares but me and maybe a few other people, a little. Baumbach perfectly reflects the drive, the low stakes, and the utter futility of the creative life. No other American filmmaker even comes close. The ones Baumbach most closely resembles have their own concerns. Cassavetes seems dated, the world he depicted much less expensive and full of possibility. Woody Allen has his own gross priapic concerns, and his massive financial success makes lines like "Y'all miss the retrospective at the Cinematheque" ring hollow. Wes Anderson's characters create, but it's usually poetry on a manual typewriter, to be read at highly stylized gatherings. Albert Brooks' characters are usually frustrated screenwriters, and his most successful movies, like Defending Your Life and Lost in America, enjoyed a mainstream success that Baumbach most likely never will. There's a kind of terrifyingly accurate specificity to Baumbach's Bohemia, the grim dusty office of the dull professor who Stiller interviews in While We're Young. The financial troubles of Frances Ha's dance studio, the tiny audience that Gerwig, in Greenberg, sings to at 11 p.m. on a Tuesday. In Meyerowitz, Hoffman strolls through the memories of 50-year-old woodworking in a corroded Midtown Manhattan studio that time forgot. But such is the nature of art, and life, and of Noah Baumbach movies. The world doesn't exist outside of the East Coast, the West Coast, and occasionally Chicago or Paris. His characters aren't concerned with the resistance or climate change. They just want Daddy to love them, but even that's a secondary concern. Mostly, they want to make things, and by making things, like small and subtle indie movies about people wanting to make things, they'll be happy. I will now give away the ending to Meyerowitz. Hoffman's character, we're told throughout the movie, has a piece in the Whitney. As it turns out, when Grace Van Patten's Eliza goes to see it, that piece is actually being kept in a box in the basement. But it is, technically, in the Whitney. That box says I was here, I was alive, I created, and it doesn't matter whether or not anyone knows. At least right now, on Netflix, some of Baumbach's movies are available. They may not be Stranger Things, but they're not in the basement, either. Neil Pollack is the author of 10 best-selling books of fiction and nonfiction. His latest novel is the sci-fi satire Keep Mars Weird. He lives in Austin, Texas. Watch The Meyerowitz Stories on Netflix. Noah Baumbach, The Meyerowitz Stories.